I've been on this bench for over 50 years, so let me tell you something right now. I can smell a lie from across the room. I don't need a polygraph. I don't need a witness. I just need to hear the first 3 words out of your mouth, and I know. So when they brought in Miss Camilla Ross, I didn't even need that much. She walked in like she owned the hallway, head-to-toe designer, a handbag that probably costs more than your first car, heels that clicked like little hammers on the floor, and the look on her face. Pure arrogance. The kind of look that says, I don't belong here with these people. Well, honey, you're in my house now. The plaintiff was a man named David Turner. He's a single father, works 2 jobs. His hands look like he uses them. His clothes were clean but faded. And sitting next to him, holding his pinky finger, was a little girl. 7 years old. Brown hair, big eyes. Name was Lily. And Lily was the reason we were all here. Miss Ross was suing David for $50,000. She claimed that David's car had rolled backward into her parked Mercedes at a gas station. She had pictures. She had a quote from a repair shop. She had a witness, her boyfriend, who just happened to be sitting in the car with her at the time. Convenient, right? David claimed he never touched her car. He said he was inside the mini-mart buying milk for his daughter. He had a receipt, he had a time stamp, and he had a 7-year-old who was waiting in the car. I looked at Miss Ross. So let me understand this. You're telling me that a man with a 10-year-old sedan, 2 jobs, and a daughter who needs new shoes decided to back into a Mercedes and just drive away? She flipped her hair. I'm telling you what happened, Your Honor. He hit my car. He needs to pay. I looked at David. He was calm, tired, but calm. And then I looked at Lily. She wasn't crying. She wasn't fidgeting. She was just staring at Miss Ross, and there was something in that little girl's eyes that I have seen 1,000 times in adults. It was the look of someone who knows a secret, someone who has seen something they shouldn't have. I leaned forward. Mr. Turner, were you in that car when it moved? No, Your Honor, I was inside, I swear. I turned to Miss Ross, who was driving the car when it allegedly rolled. She hesitated just for a second, but I saw it. David Turner, she said. You just told me he was inside the store. He left it in neutral. Are you serious? I put my pen down. You're a liar, Miss Ross. I haven't seen the video yet, and I already know you're a liar. But that's fine. Lying is not a crime in my courtroom. Contempt is, and you're getting very close. Her face went tight. She looked at her lawyer. Her lawyer looked at the floor. And then I called for the gas station's security footage. The bailiff took the USB drive. The room went quiet. But just as I was about to play it, Lily Turner tugged her father's sleeve, and she whispered something. David's face went white. He looked at me. He shook his head. Your Honor, I don't want to play the video. I froze. Excuse me? Please, I don't want to play it. Miss Ross smiled for the first time, a small, victorious little smirk, and that's when I knew this wasn't about a dented bumper. This wasn't about a gas station. This was about something much, much bigger. I looked directly into the camera, into your eyes, and said, I asked the bailiff to hold the video, because what happened next? Even I didn't see it coming. So there I was, sitting on my bench, looking at a defendant who was a little too comfortable, a plaintiff who was scared of a video, and a 7-year-old girl who knew more than anyone in the room. I told David Turner to lean forward. You asked me not to play the video. Why? You're the one getting sued. That video is supposed to clear your name. He couldn't look at me, because on the video you'll see Lily get out of the car, and I told her never to get out of the car. I broke my own rule. I said, so you're worried about a parenting lecture? Mr. Turner, I'm about to give you a $50,000 bill. A parenting lecture is the least of your problems. Miss Ross jumped in. See? He admitted his daughter got out. That means the car was unattended. That means he's negligent. I pointed my pen at her. Miss Ross, sit down. Don't interrupt me again or I'll hold you in contempt and you'll be writing me a check before your lawyer can blink. She sat down. But David was shaking his head. Your Honor, the car was in park. I put it in park myself. I checked twice because I always check twice when Lily is in the car. I looked at Miss Ross's witness, her boyfriend, a man named Trent who had been chewing gum like a cow since the hearing started. Mr. Trent, you were in the passenger seat. What did you see? He stopped chewing. I saw the car roll. I saw it hit us. Was anyone behind the wheel? No, so you're telling me a car in park, with the emergency brake on, rolled backwards 6 feet into your parked car? Yes, ma'am. I laughed. I actually laughed. That's not physics. That's a fairy tale. Cars in park don't roll unless the transmission is broken. Is the transmission broken, Mr. Turner? David shook his head. No, Your Honor. It was just inspected. I have the report. Miss Ross's lawyer stood up. A young kid, maybe 3 years out of law school. Your Honor, the plaintiff is implying that our clients are lying. I stared at him. I'm not implying anything, counselor. I'm stating it directly. Your clients are lying. But that's fine. I'll prove it. I asked for the video again, but before I could take it, Lily Turner stood up on her chair. She was tiny, but her voice was not. Daddy doesn't lie, she said. The whole room went silent. Miss Ross rolled her eyes. Oh, please. And that was her mistake, because I saw Lily flinch. I saw that little girl's face crumble like a crack in glass, not because of the accusation, but because of the tone, the disrespect. And I remembered something: in cases like this, the truth doesn't come from the adults. Adults have agendas. Adults have bills to pay and reputations to protect, but a 7-year-old? A 7-year-old only has one thing: the truth. I looked at Miss Ross. You just made a very serious error. You just rolled your eyes at a child in my courtroom, and I don't forget things like that. I turned to David. I'm going to allow your daughter to speak, and God help both of you if you've coached her. David nodded. Lily climbed off the chair. She walked to the witness stand. The bailiff had to lift her up because she was too short to climb, and then she looked at me, and she said something that made my blood run cold. That lady came to our house. She yelled at Daddy. She said she would take me away if he didn't pay her. I didn't move. I didn't blink. And I said, Miss Ross, explain that now. But the look on her face told me everything. She was caught, and this was just the beginning, because what Lily said next, that's when the real nightmare began. I've heard a lot of things in this courtroom. I've heard people lie about cancer. I've heard mothers lie about their own children. I've heard a man swear on a stack of Bibles that he didn't steal a car, only to watch the security footage of him driving it through a wall. But I have never, and I mean never, seen a child look at a defendant the way Lily Turner looked at Camilla Ross. She wasn't scared. She was certain. I asked her again. Sweetheart, you said the lady came to your house. When? Lily looked at her father. He nodded. Last Tuesday. I was doing homework. The doorbell rang. Daddy was at work. Miss Ross shot up. This is absurd. I've never been to that man's house. I don't even know where he lives. I slammed my hand on the bench. Miss Ross, sit down or I will have the bailiff remove you from this room. You are not in charge here. I am. She sat down, but her face was red, not from embarrassment, from rage. Lily continued. She was at the door with a man, the same man. She pointed to Trent, the boyfriend. He had a camera. She said Daddy had to give her money or she would call the police and say Daddy hit her car. But he didn't. Daddy wasn't even there. I turned to David. Did you know about this? He wiped his eyes. No, Your Honor. I came home and Lily was crying. She wouldn't tell me why for 2 days. She was scared. She thought I would be mad. I looked back at the little girl. Lily, did you open the door? She shook her head. No, I looked through the hole. I always look through the hole. And what did the lady say exactly? Lily took a breath, and then she repeated it, word for word, like a recording. Tell your daddy he owes me $50,000. If he doesn't pay, I'll make sure he never sees you again. The courtroom went dead quiet. Even Miss Ross's lawyer stopped writing. I looked at Miss Ross. That right there is extortion. That is a felony. And you just confessed to it in front of a witness. Miss Ross stood up again. She's a child. She's making it up. I pointed at her. She's 7 years old. 7-year-olds don't know what $50,000 is. They don't know what extortion means. She repeated what she heard. And you know what? I believe her. Then I turned to David. Mr. Turner, why didn't you call the police? He looked exhausted. Because I don't have money for a lawyer. Because I don't have time for a court battle. I thought if I just came here and told the truth, that would be enough. I leaned back. You came to the right place. But you almost made a very big mistake. You almost let a bully win. Miss Ross's lawyer stood up again. Your Honor, my client denies ever visiting the plaintiff's home. I smiled. Good. Then you won't mind if we check the security cameras from the defendant's apartment building, or the GPS from her phone, or the location data from her car. Miss Ross's face went pale. Because here's the thing about modern liars, I said, looking directly at her. You carry a tracking device in your pocket. Your phone knows everywhere you've been. And if you went to that man's house, I will find out. So I'll ask you one more time. Did you go to David Turner's home and threaten his daughter? She didn't answer. She looked at her lawyer. Her lawyer looked at the ceiling. And then Lily spoke again. She wasn't wearing shoes. Daddy said only people who live close come to the door without shoes. I stopped breathing for a second. I looked at Miss Ross's feet, manicured toes, expensive sandals, but that didn't matter, because Lily was right, and I had a feeling the truth was about to walk right through those doors. Now let me pause here for a second and talk to you directly. You're watching this at home, probably eating chips or scrolling on your phone, but I need you to understand something. This case wasn't about a dent anymore. It wasn't about a car. It wasn't even about money. This was about a woman who looked at a hard-working single father and a 7-year-old girl and decided they were easy targets. And that makes me furious. After Lily's testimony, Miss Ross declined to cross-examine her. Smart move, because if she had tried to bully that child, I would have ended her right there in open court. Instead, she tried a different approach, the victim card. Miss Ross stood up. She adjusted her jacket. She looked at me with fake tears. Your Honor, I am a businesswoman. I have a reputation. This man damaged my property, and now he's using his child to manipulate the court. It's disgusting. I didn't say anything. I let her talk, because when liars talk, they always hang themselves. She continued, I never went to his house. I don't even know where he lives. His daughter is lying. Maybe she's confused. Maybe her father put her up to it. David stood up. I would never sit down, Mr. Turner, I said. I'll handle this. I looked at Miss Ross. You just accused a 7-year-old of perjury. Do you know how that sounds? I'm accusing her father. Same thing. You're accusing a child of lying to a judge. That's a very serious charge. What evidence do you have? She stammered. The video, the gas station video. It will show his car moving. I smiled. You're right, it will. I called for the video again. This time, no one objected. David put his head in his hands. Lily held his arm. The bailiff pressed play on the courtroom monitor. And here's what we saw. The gas station, David's car parked at a pump. He gets out. He goes inside. The car doesn't move, not an inch. Then Miss Ross's Mercedes pulls into the spot behind him. Too close. The driver, Trent, her boyfriend, looks at the camera. He reverses. He bumps David's car. Not hard, just a tap. Then Miss Ross gets out. She walks to the back of David's car. She looks at the dent she caused, and then she does something incredible. She takes her phone out. She takes pictures, and then she points at David's car. She walks around. She pretends to examine something that isn't there. Then David comes out of the store with a carton of milk. He doesn't even notice the dent. He puts Lily in the car. He drives away, and Miss Ross smiles. I paused the video. I looked at Miss Ross. You caused the accident. You, not him. She opened her mouth. No sound came out. You committed insurance fraud. You filed a false police report. You tried to extort a man with a child, and you had the nerve to bring this into my courtroom? She started crying. Real tears this time. Not for remorse, because she got caught. But here's the thing. I wasn't done, because I noticed something on the video. Something small. Something no one else saw. In the background, behind Miss Ross's car, there was a woman. She was walking her dog, and she stopped. She watched the whole thing, and then she pulled out her phone. I looked at Miss Ross. Who is that woman? She turned white. I don't know. I turned to the bailiff. Find her. And that's when Miss Ross realized it wasn't over. It was just beginning. Because that woman? She lived 3 blocks from David Turner, and she had something that was about to destroy everything Miss Ross had left. Let me tell you something about liars. They can fake tears. They can fake smiles. They can fake love. But there's one thing they cannot fake: fear. And when the bailiff walked back into that courtroom with a woman in her 60s, a gray-haired lady wearing sneakers and holding a dog leash, Miss Ross didn't fake anything. Her soul left her body. The woman's name was Mrs. Helen Crane. She lived in the same apartment building as David Turner. She walked her dog every evening at 7 p.m. Mrs. Crane, I said. Do you know why you're here? She looked at Miss Ross, then at David, then at Lily, and her eyes softened. I think so, Your Honor. You want me to tell them what I saw, please. She took a breath. Last Tuesday evening, I was walking my dog Max. We were coming back from the park, and as we approached Mr. Turner's building, I saw a white Mercedes parked outside. Two people were standing at his door, a woman in a red dress and a man with a camera. Miss Ross buried her face in her hands. Mrs. Crane continued. They were ringing the bell over and over. They were yelling. I heard the woman say, "I know you're in there, little girl. Open the door." I didn't know what to do, so I filmed it. She held up her phone. My heart rate didn't change. I've been doing this too long, but I felt something, anger. Yes, but more than that, disgust. Mrs. Crane, did you see the little girl open the door? No, Your Honor, but I saw the woman lean down to the mail slot. She yelled something inside. I couldn't hear all of it, but I heard the words, "Take you away." I looked at David. Tears were streaming down his face. Not loud crying, quiet tears. The kind a man cries when he realizes how close he came to losing everything. Lily climbed onto his lap. She wiped his cheek with her tiny hand. "It's okay, Daddy. I'm not scared." And that broke something in me. Not professionally, personally. I turned to Miss Ross. You made a father cry in front of his child. You made a little girl afraid to open her own front door. For what? A new paint job? She didn't answer. You know what your problem is, Miss Ross? You thought money made you untouchable. You thought that because you drive a Mercedes, because you wear designer clothes, because you have a lawyer in a cheap suit, that no one would believe the man with calloused hands and faded jeans. I stood up, just for a second, to look down at her. You were wrong. You are not special in my courtroom. You are not above the law. You are a liar. You are a fraud. And you are about to learn the single most expensive lesson of your life. Her lawyer tried to speak. I cut him off. Sit down, counselor. Your client is not getting a settlement. She is not getting a dismissal. She is getting a judgment, and I haven't even decided how much yet. I looked at the video on Mrs. Crane's phone. I hadn't played it yet, but I would. And then I looked at Lily. She was whispering something to her father. I couldn't hear it, but David nodded. He stood up. He walked to the bench, and he handed me a folded piece of paper. Your Honor, he said, his voice shaking. Lily wrote this last night. She said I had to give it to you. I opened it. And what I read made me sit down. It wasn't a drawing. It wasn't a letter. It was a single sentence in a child's handwriting in purple crayon. My daddy cries every night when he thinks I am sleeping. Please make the bad lady stop. I folded the paper and I made my decision. I don't cry. Let me make that very clear. I have sat on this bench for over 3 decades. I have heard stories that would make a priest lose his faith. I have seen children testifying against their own parents. I have sent people to jail, taken their money, and stripped them of every lie they've ever told. I don't cry. But that note? That purple crayon confession from a 7-year-old who just wanted her father to sleep peacefully? That note made me want to climb over this bench. I looked at Miss Ross. You see this? I held up the note. You did this. You made a child afraid to sleep. You made a father sob into his pillow over a dent you caused yourself. Miss Ross was trembling now. No more attitude, no more hair flips, just a woman realizing she had walked into the wrong room with the wrong story. I want to settle, she whispered. Too late, I said. I played Mrs. Crane's video on the big screen. You could see everything. The white Mercedes, the red dress, the boyfriend with the camera. You could hear Miss Ross screaming through the mail slot. Open this door, little girl. Open this door or I'll call the police right now. Then Lily's voice from inside, small, terrified. My daddy says not to open the door, and Miss Ross's response. Your daddy is a liar, and if you don't open this door, I'll make sure you never see him again. The video ended. The courtroom was silent. Even the court reporter stopped typing. I looked at Miss Ross. That's not a civil case. That's criminal. You threatened a child. You terrorized a minor. You committed assault. Not physical assault, but emotional assault. And in my book, that's worse. Her lawyer stood up one last time. Your Honor, my client is willing to pay Mr. Turner $50,000 to make this go away. I laughed. 50,000? That's what she was suing him for. Now she wants to pay him. No, 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 no. I turned to my clerk. Docket the following. Judgment in favor of the plaintiff, David Turner. Court finds defendant Camilla Ross liable for fraud, extortion, and emotional distress against a minor. I looked at Miss Ross. You will pay Mr. Turner $100,000. That's double what you tried to steal from him. Plus all court costs. Plus the cost of his attorney. plus a $5,000 fine for wasting my time, she gasped. I don't have that kind of money. Then sell your Mercedes, sell your handbag, sell your shoes. I don't care. You should have thought about that before you rang that little girl's doorbell. I turned to David. His face was wet, but he was smiling. Lily was smiling too, for the first time since this nightmare began. Mr. Turner, I said, softer now. You're a good father. Don't ever let anyone make you feel otherwise. He nodded. Thank you, Your Honor. Don't thank me. Thank your daughter. She's braver than half the adults who walk through those doors. Miss Ross tried to speak. I cut her off one last time. Don't. You're done. Get out of my courtroom. But as she stood up to leave, Lily Turner said something that stopped everyone. Excuse me, Judge Judy? Can I say something to the bad lady? I hesitated, but I nodded. Lily climbed off her father's lap. She walked right up to Miss Ross. She looked up at her, and she said 5 words that left the entire room in shock. I still get chills thinking about it. Lily Turner looked up at Camilla Ross, and with the calm of a child who had already won, she said, I forgive you, but my daddy doesn't have to. I sat back in my chair. For the first time in my career, I had nothing to say. That little girl had just taught a courtroom full of adults what grace looked like. No anger, no revenge. Just the truth, wrapped in a 7-year-old's voice. Miss Ross didn't know what to do. She stood there, frozen. Her boyfriend had already walked out. Her lawyer had packed his bag. She was alone, exposed, and utterly defeated. She looked at Lily. For 1 second, I thought I saw something change in her face. Regret? Maybe, or maybe just the realization that she had lost everything for nothing. She walked out without a word. I looked at David. Mr. Turner, the judgment is final. She has 30 days to pay. If she doesn't, we seize her assets. And trust me, I will make sure we do. He hugged Lily so tight I thought she might pop, but here's the twist, the part you didn't see coming. 3 weeks later, my clerk handed me a letter. It was from Lily. No purple crayon this time. Real pen, real paper. Her handwriting had already improved. She wrote, Dear Judge Judy, thank you for believing me. The bad lady paid the money. My daddy used it to buy a house. Not a big one, but one with a yard. And he doesn't cry anymore. I'm sleeping better too. You're my hero. Love, Lily. I read that letter 3 times, and then I put it in my desk drawer where I keep the important things. But that wasn't the only twist. Because 6 months later, Camilla Ross was arrested. Not for the extortion, not for the fraud, but for doing the exact same thing to another family. A neighbor, a single mother, same story, same lies. This time, the judge didn't give her a fine. He gave her 18 months in state prison. And that's the thing about bullies. They don't stop. They just find new victims until someone stops them. Lily Turner stopped her, a 7-year-old with a purple crayon and a father who cried at night. So here's my final lesson for you watching at home. Money doesn't buy character. Designer clothes don't buy honesty. And the person you think is weak, the person you think you can push around, they might just be the strongest person in the room. Now, subscribe to this channel. Hit the like button if you believe in justice, and leave a comment. What would you have said to Camilla Ross? And one more thing. Next time you see someone bullying a child, don't film it. Don't walk away. Step in. Be a Helen Crane. Be a Lily. Be the person who says enough. Because I can't be everywhere. But I'll be right here, on this bench, waiting for the next liar to walk through my door. Dismissed.